JobsOhio thing. The auditor wants to audit it, says he can't get the paperwork, he needs to do it. He says there's clarification is needed in law. Where does it stand in your mind?
Well, if there's clarification needed in law, maybe it's because there isn't any power for him to do what he's doing.
What do you mean?
Well,
is that your understanding?
Yeah, I drafted most of that. He doesn't have that authority to go into a private corporation and audit it. I'm waiting for him to try to get into Chrysler Motors or Fiat, whatever they call it now. We bought a lot of those cars this year. Where'd that money go? What's going on over there? I mean,
So you think he's clearly overstepping his authority?
Very clearly.
But, Speaker, did you know, everybody was under the impression that JobsOhio was getting $1 million in state money. Paperwork came out this week that said they're getting something like $5 million plus. Did you know they were getting that much in state money? And should the public have a right to know what's going on with that?
I wouldn't concur with your first statement that everybody knew that they were getting $1 million.
That's what the controlling board approved, isn't it? Or am I mistaken?
That was what the original legislation
had.
Yeah,
I understood that, yeah. But there was later a discussion about monies that were over at DOD in a program which made grants and so forth. And then the question was, who's going to do that now? And so there was an arrangement made, which I think was visible. I knew about it. And the governor didn't tell me. And neither did the auditor.
But the perception of this is not good. That the public money is being spent in a way that the public doesn't know about. Do you agree that there's a perception problem at least?
There might be a perception problem created by the auditor, but I think most people understood that board. You've looked at the list of board members. These are people above reproach. This is not some group of cowboys. The only person who's left the board has been Mr. McDonald down at P&G, and that's too bad, but he had his hands full at the company there. There was criticism of him from some of these short sellers.
So are you going to support legislation to go ahead and make it clear that the auditor needs to butt out in this situation?
No, we'll just continue to approve of their effort to have an audit by a recognized national firm, and like any other private corporation. And that's in essence what we have there. Couldn't have been any clearer. These are the same people in the other party who were complaining about that when the bill went through. And when the bond lawyer and I worked together, there was no question in our mind about what was going on. So all of a sudden, here we have somebody saying that he has the authority to do this, and that's not a very good reading of the bill.
Does the auditor have the authority to audit public funds?
Oh, sure.
So how about that aspect of JobsOhio?
No problem there. I've talked to the governor about it. He says, well, public funds are public funds, but the other funds, we just sold a bunch of really good bonds. And in fact, some of the guys down there on the street said, boy, we're kind of critical of you, but you should add more bonds. And I think that 120,000 jobs is not bad. That leads the country in terms of the state of our size. This thing has gone really well, and there's no reason for anybody to be questioning that aspect of it. As a matter of fact, I shouldn't get into that, but the auditor, he was over there agitating to have language put in that made him the auditor of the private fund, and nobody was willing to make that motion. Well, a couple of years go by and we're doing it again, I guess. I don't know.
Well, the private auditor that's auditing JobsOhio is the same private auditor that was supposedly auditing the MDL investment years ago, and it went bad.
You're speaking of KPMG?
Yes. They were the ones in charge of MDL, and then all that money was shifting out underneath their nose when they were auditing that. So, why do you have faith?
I don't know that incident. I really don't.
I just remember
KPMG is hired by people like General Motors, people like that. This is a big outfit, and I suppose if somebody in the legislature said that they ought to get another firm, that they'd get another firm. Maybe they would. I don't know. Some of this is just politics.
Does a private firm have all the information they need, though, to audit it? Is that, I mean, is
They're
there
not
any-
going to give you an audit if they don't. I can recall, particularly when I was on the insurance committee periodically, I would go to a company where we hadn't seen an SEC filing and where there wasn't a current audit submitted to the insurance department, and saying to them, hey, you know, what's going on here? I had one of them said, well, I couldn't look at the books. Well, I'd never gotten that from any other insurance company in this state. What do they think? I'm going to buy and sell stock predicated on that? No way. And I was working with Vern. Vern had said, go ahead and do what you have to do. And that blew up. That was Physicians Mutual.
You mentioned politics. I mean, is it politics when you've got a Republican auditor and a Republican governor disagreeing with each other?
I don't know. I think the governor's running again. I don't know why anybody would want to get into something like this with him. And given that, I'm just mystified, to tell you the truth. And I'm not going to tell you that he came in to see me about it, and I told him what the law said.
He being Mr. Yost.
Yeah, yeah. And obviously, I've talked to the governor, and this was an effort to bring, I mean, that board, when you look at that board, you couldn't put them together at General Motors. I mean, this is really an excellent board, and they've done an excellent job. And, you know, Kwame had a lot to do with what happened at the beginning, but people, you know, act like he was still there. He's not there. In other words, it's like a corporation. People have moved in, moved up. They're being picked by just an outstanding board. Steve Davis from Bob Evans. As I say, we did have one member leave the board, but that was a domestic problem for him. I don't mean domestic in the sense of marital. God, I could really screw these things up. But bottom line is, this is something that has been talked about in Republican circles for some time. And did the state chairman, the state chairman to be, did he put out a statement today or anything? Probably not.
State chairman to be, who are you
Matt
referring to?
Borges?
Oh, no.
Yeah. No. Well, yeah, it's very distressing to those of us who have a really strong feeling about the necessary success of this particular organization. I can't remember how many gross dollars they didn't take in. The governor was back out on Wall Street a week ago, maybe two, and the reception that he got from the rating agencies was 100%. I talked to both him and the gentleman who was with him, Tim Keene, and no, we're doing fine. Our problem here is that we have somebody who, for whatever reason, wants to try to intervene into this thing, and what we have to have are KPMG type audits to give to the bondholders. They don't care what the auditor of the state of Ohio thinks, for crying out loud, but they do want to have somebody who is an accomplished auditor of significant financial institutions.